Unresolved Problem segment tonight. How did life on Earth begin? Religious people believe a higher power created the universe. Secular progressives say all kinds of things, but God is not in the equation. And some believe those who subscribe to intelligent design, that is, a deity created life, are being persecuted in America. Joining us now from Washington, Ben Stein, who has put together a new documentary called Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. The film set to open in the theaters this coming February. So, what's the issue in your mind?
Well, the issue is that Darwinism, which was a brilliant theory and a great relic of the age of imperialism in the 19th century, basically said mankind evolved from apes and monkeys and from cells and so forth. And that's a brilliant proposition. Darwin was a brilliant guy. But it didn't say how life began. It didn't say how the cell got to have hundreds of thousands of moving parts, each of which has to work perfectly. It said maybe life was created by lightning striking a mud puddle. That has never struck me as convincing. And I thought there are a lot of gaps in Darwinism. Intelligent design is an effort to try to fill in some of those gaps. It might be totally wrong, but at least it's an effort to try to fill in some very obvious gaps.
All right, but you know when you say that, particularly you being in the show business community, you have one foot in there, that Christopher Hitchens, Bill Maher, who we just saw, are going to say that you're a primitive, that you're an intellectual deficient, that you have no right to intrude on the American secular culture by bringing up there may be a creator. And you say what?
I say there's a First Amendment. I'm allowed to say anything I want, and Bill Maher has nothing to say about it, and Christopher Hitchens, an obviously brilliant man, has nothing to say about it. In fact, this whole problem is about a violation of the First Amendment. There are many scientists we interviewed, many, who have been expelled from their jobs, who have had their websites shut down, who have been denied grants, been denied tenure, because they wanted to question the limits, the boundaries of Darwinism and the gaps in Darwinism, and they've been expelled, shut down. That's not how societies progress. Societies progress by asking questions and having freedom of speech and freedom of inquiry. We're not trying to shut anyone up. Bill Maher can say anything he wants. All these Darwinist people, all these atheists can say anything they want. We would just like to have freedom of inquiry and freedom of speech. And is this problem important? Well, is freedom of speech important? Is freedom of inquiry important?
But it's interesting because the state of Kansas, not a crazy liberal state, has ordered its people, teachers, not to mention that there might be a creationistic aspect to the universe. And you're right. I mean, the academics now have shut down. And I could never understand it. Why can't you just mention in biology class or whatever class you want that there are theologians who believe a higher power was responsible for the first life? Because whenever I get these atheists on the factor, and you probably know this, I said, okay, how did it all start? Well, we really don't know yet.
Well, the reason they're so angry about it and so defensive is because the theory has so many holes in it, and it's such a weak theory that they have to be defensive about it to fight off what are going to be some obvious attacks on it. I mean, this is a theory which was a brilliant theory in the middle of the 19th century. It's the 21st century. There are a lot of questions being raised about it. Nobody had any idea the cell was so complex. We would just like to be able to ask the questions. Maybe we're wrong, maybe we're stupid, but we'd like to be able to ask the questions.
Okay, do you think, though, that people who believe in creationism are being persecuted in America?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. We have lots and lots of evidence of it in the movie. And you know, Einstein worked within the framework of believing there was a God. Newton worked within the framework of believing there was a God. For gosh sakes, Darwin worked within the framework of believing there was a God, and yet somehow today you're not allowed to believe it. Why can't we have as much freedom as Darwin
I don't know. It's an excellent question. I've never been able to understand why the secular authorities in education, all right, basically persecute people who raise a very legitimate question. Hey, you guys haven't figured it out, you secular pinheads. You haven't figured it out. You had a lot of time. So perhaps we just want to let the kids know there are two opinions on this. But no, you can't have the kids hear that. Separation of church and state. I'll give you the last word, Mr. Stein.
Because there's so much fear out there in the secular community that their position is so precarious. We're not trying to shut them down. We just want to be allowed to talk and think.
Just want to have all cards put on the academic table.
Exactly.
All right, Ben Stein, everybody. We'll look for his film. Thank you.